Hi, everyone, and welcome to the House of Lou podcast. I'm your host, Veronica Theodoro. This episode of House of Lou is sponsored by Carpet Kitchen and Bath. When was the last time you thought about what it would be like to grow older in your house? Before working on this episode, I don't think it ever crossed my mind. My guests today are Gretchen Kigma and Tiffany Dill, the co-founders of Custom Joy. Their firm aims to help clients of all ages and abilities buy, build, and design houses using the principles of universal design so that they can safely and comfortably remain in their homes as they grow older. So whether you're a first-time homeowner, embarking on a remodel, or have lived in the same house for most of your life, if you can envision a future growing older there, this is an episode you won't want to miss. But before we get started, here's what's been going on in and around my house. I'm recording this episode just a few days before the October design issue of St. Louis Magazine hits your mailboxes, and I can't wait for you to see it. The cover is a photo of the solarium, which really feels like the heart of this house, which was built in 1916 for the original owners of the Busy Bee Candy Company. The room has like this really cool Southern California fresh vibe about it. There are a couple of Slim Aaron's poolside photos in the room that really lend to the aesthetic. David Dethridge of David Dethridge Design, who we've covered in the past and who's known for creating really beautiful, elegant spaces, worked with the homeowners on this particular project. They are longtime collaborators, even business partners in Interior Motives, LLC. So they have a lot of history together, and they've been able to really not only maintain the historic authenticity of the house, but imbue it with a really cool, modern look as well. Certainly the furniture that they curate is pretty special. So be sure to take a look at it when you see the issue. Lately, I've been covering a lot of stories about designers who are either starting a new business venture in addition to their interiors practice, or moving into new studio spaces and really making them their own. For example, Abode by Parkland Interiors is one. Owner Danielle Kalish curates an incredible collection of both old and new home decor merchandise, and you can find her shop on Demun in Clayton. Ashley Obradovitz, who's a designer with Carpet Kitchen and Bath, has recently launched Wonderwall rugs. Carpets are handmade in India and they're 100% wool. And the best part of all is that they are fully customizable. So you can get exactly what you need for your particular home and space. And this past summer, I met with Megan Heater of Castle Design as she was preparing to officially launch Ättlingar, which is a line of bespoke medicine cabinets and mirrors that she runs with one of her longtime clients, which I just think is such a cool partnership for the two of them. So check out all of these businesses. They are a great addition to the St. Louis market. And of course, we always love to support local designers. So if you are a designer and there's something new and interesting happening in your world, be sure to reach out and I will make a note of it in an upcoming podcast episode. And before I forget, the deadline to enter the Architect and Designer Awards competition is October 16th. If you have any questions, reach out to me, and I can't wait to see the projects that you submit this year. We'll be right back. Whether you want a new kitchen, laundry room, or children's nursery, Carbig Kitchen and Bath can handle it all. From design and construction to interiors, Carbig serves as a one-stop shop for all the essentials needed to create spaces that are #nothing ordinary. For those seeking to renovate or build, schedule a free design consultation today by visiting carbig.com/project-consultation. Welcome back, everyone. My guests today are Gretchen Kigma and Tiffany Dill of Custom Joy. Welcome to the podcast, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
I'm really fascinated by your stories. You're both occupational therapists. Tiffany, you have a background in public health. And Gretchen, you're licensed in real estate. Now you're the co-founders of a firm that aims to help people remain in their homes as they age. I wanted to start by getting some clarity around some of the terms that we hear when we talk about this topic of aging in place. What does it mean to age in place? And what is universal design? They're not the same thing, correct?
Right. I would say they're not synonymous, even though people love to use them as such. And an integral part of our story is that we both have clinical background and we were just burnt out in the healthcare space. And so Tiffany, with her design background and me deciding to pivot into real estate, we had this mindset of occupational therapist role is to keep people happy, healthy, and thriving at home in the homes of their choice. Then why are we not in real estate? Why are we not in the housing industry? And so we jumped into this space to attack aging in place. And so to answer your question, aging in place is a choice of somebody that wants to stay in their community instead of an alternative being a senior living community, maybe a CCRC, which is a continuing care residential community. And we like to say living in place because even though culturally aging in place is the more accepted term, it does sound a little bit negative and not sexy. Like nobody wants to decay where they are stuck. They would rather live in the place that they are in. So aging in place is just a choice of somebody to stay in their home as long as they possibly can. And then universal design is how we achieve aging in place. It is a form of design, a type of design that takes a proactive approach instead of a reactive approach. So you're proactively taking into consideration ages 0 to 102, despite any abilities or disabilities. So a lot of times people will intermingle, and you didn't ask about accessibility, but people will say accessibility and universal design. And I think the biggest difference there is that accessibility denotes that there has to be a disability, whereas universal design is truly for everyone.
Okay. Fascinating. And from my research, I learned that 76% of adults ages 50 and older want to remain in their homes as they age. And for 53, of adults ages 18 to 49 would prefer to stay in their homes as well. That's a big sector of the population. What questions should we all be asking ourselves? And how do we even think about planning our spaces with thriving in older age in mind?
Yeah. So I'm very passionate about this one. Sorry, Tiff, I've been talking.
Go ahead.
But I will. I don't understand why we as humans, we will have a financial plan. We'll have a financial planner. We'll have an estate plan. We'll have a will. We'll have a trust. We'll do all these things to set ourselves up for the future, but we don't have real estate plans. We don't have house plans. And so to answer your question, what is the questions you should be asking? I would say, what is my plan? And it's okay if you're 34 and don't have a disability to have a plan. I actually live in a ranch style home that has a wide opening in my sunroom that is 0 steps. And I did that intentionally because what if one of my kids breaks their ankle playing soccer? I had a father who had stage 4 cancer and I wanted him to be able to get into my home. So I think just asking yourself, like, what is our plan if life brings lemons? And not waiting until the oh crap moment of, oh, health has happened, accident has happened, beer league softball has happened, and I can't get into my tub because I'm sore. So just asking yourself, what is our plan?
Plans don't always entail big construction projects,
Mhm.
right? What are some of the other more accessible modifications that we can make in our homes just to make it easier on us as we grow older?
Yeah, sure. Modifications are, I like to call those more like simple solutions. So it's not construction, doesn't require swinging hammers and that sort of thing. Remodeling and modification are slightly different, in my opinion. So remodeling is more of the labor intensive, it's going to be more costly. But if you just need simple changes, such as the thresholds that get into the home, Gretchen and I are obsessed with our we both actually have a rubber threshold ramp that we use in our home so that our loved ones can enter our home and our home is more visitable for our family members. That is that is one simple solution. Another simple solution that is one of our most requested products, and I actually love it and have it in my own house, but it's the toilet paper assist bar. It's not necessarily a grab bar, but it looks nice. It goes with the finishes in the bathroom and all the plumbing finishes, and it looks like it's intentional because there's a toilet paper on roll on it, as well as a little bar that gives you that little oomph, get up off that toilet. It's great for women that are pregnant that can't get off the toilet or someone that is non-weight bearing on one leg. It's not really looking like it's more of an ADA accessible bathroom. So it is making it more universal for everyone to use and more comfortable and easier for people to use.
Do you consider the bathroom or the kitchen one of the more important rooms of the home to prioritize in terms of universal design? Or what do you think is the most important place to think about?
The request that we get is obviously the bathroom because that's where people, take pride in themselves and want to be the most independent. The kitchen is usually the second priority. So it's
Yeah.
the bathroom, the top for sure. But from
And
real
I
estate,
think statistically, from an occupational therapy perspective, I read objective data point recently. One, majority of falls happen at home, but of that, like it was something in the 80 percentile. I think it's 83% of falls that happen at home happen in the bathroom. So
Oh,
that would
okay.
make just that point alone would make the bathroom the most important. And it's Tiffany always likes to say we like to get into the nerdy details, but it's educating clients on like what DCOF means when they're looking at tiles for their floor. While some people love the shiny marbles, like that's a terrible idea in a
Right.
bathroom. And not even for an aging person. Like my 7-year-old would probably fall and break her tailbone if that was our floor. So we do a lot of educating on types of materials, but also how to place them. So using smaller tiles in a shower floor is going to give you more grout lines. More grout lines is going to give you more friction. More friction is going to decrease your fall risk. And we're walking our clients through that thought process when looking at the bathroom and then taking it to the kitchen and other areas of the house.
What are some of those elements that can be easily added into a kitchen?
when it comes to the remodeling aspects, we do a lot of educating on like having different height countertop to accommodate everyone of all ages and all height differences because it's also ergonomic. We factor in the ergonomics for that as well. We really try to factor in the lighting into the home. So if someone has trouble seeing, we also talk about task lighting and also the different color temperature lighting and the CRI and the lighting. So all of those things are really important. And we actually have a lighting rep that we really enjoy working with, that we partner with. So they really help us identify where can we place the lighting to make it much more efficient in the kitchen and safer. One of the simple things that I like to add are under cabinet lighting. So that's probably a simple solution that you can
Okay.
add underneath because that's one thing you can leave on at night. I like to leave a light on in my kitchen at night, especially when my grandmother's over there or my parents are over there. That way, when someone gets up and gets some water in the middle of the night, they're not tripping over anything. They can see. Um, so that's a really important feature. And also, there's outlet switches that have motion sensor lighting on them. So you're not using up an outlet to plug in a light.
Yeah.
So that way you have your two plugs free, but there's light underneath the out switch. And that is also on Amazon as well. So those are some simple solutions that we can add to the kitchen. Those can be plugged in or replace the outlet plate.
Okay. And we'll be sure to post some of these products onto our show notes for our listeners.
Yeah. I think people get scared to use tech too. Like so much is happening real time with technology.
Yes.
And there's so many different appliances that have these smart features. And I'm not going to lie. I already said I'm only 34 and it like overwhelms me. So if you're 60 and you're doing a total overhaul, it can be overwhelming. And it could save you a ton of agony down the road. So a lot of people aren't on board with induction cooktops yet, but that's a great way to increase safety for your grandkids and for yourself. Heaven forbid somebody has a stroke down the road and they have poor control or poor manipulation. They're not going to burn themselves, but still have the independence to cook in the kitchen. So we're also looking at different ways to add technology to the kitchen to make it more efficient and safer.
And what is it about the induction stove that makes it easier to use?
Yeah, so it's only heating up the pot, the magnetic pot that is on the stove. So if my 5-year-old who is a bowl in a china shop wants to help cook at the countertop and he sits on the stove, it's not going to burn him like an electric or obviously gas would. It's only heating up the contents that are in the pot.
Okay, interesting.
And it's a lot safer, as she mentioned, to use, but it's a lot more, it's, touch point, but then you can set the pot to wherever you want on the induction stovetop. It does require a little bit of planning when you are installing an induction stovetop. So like you have to think about the electrical outlet, the type of voltage that it requires. So they'll have to look at that. Some people already have gas plugged. But when it comes to appliances, there's so many appliances out there that just makes life a little easier. We both love the drawer microwaves. That is so much easier for people to use, especially while seated or instead of reaching overhead and reaching for a hot bowl or stirring something, you can actually see in it. But I do like to, it's all based on personal preferences. So if the client is not used to that or doesn't want to use it, then, but it also requires redesigning your cabinet around that drawer microwave. So there's little things like that. And technology, and speaking of technology, we also there is a remote hood that you can add to the stovetop. So if someone is unable to reach the hood to vent what they're cooking, then they can just use the remote to turn on the hood. So we have put in some requests for clients for that as well.
Interesting. I'm wondering if the popularity of the open floor plan in interiors has made your jobs a little bit easier.
It depends on what year the house was built. We've seen everything from 1904 South City homes to brand new construction. And so definitely the more modern construction is a lot easier to retrofit and open floor plans are way easier to get around. It is a little bit maddening. This is for the builders out there. It's a little maddening that we're still building brand new construction with 2 steps to get in.
Yeah.
It's not that much more expensive if you just backfill and regrade a garage and have 0-step entry or a sidewalk to the front door. So yes, newer construction and open floor plans make it easy, but there are still things that builders are missing the mark on all over the United States, not just St. Louis.
Right. Well, I was thinking about all of the single-story ranch homes that are being torn down for these much larger homes to be built in their place. I mean, ranch homes are really, really well designed for aging in place. And it seems like there aren't so many of them.
Yeah, we are obsessed with ranches. She lives in a ranch. I do not. But when my husband and I built our house, we had a hard time finding the homes that had that main floor bedroom and main floor bathroom. So that's why we decided to build our own house. So we have 2 bedrooms on the main floor and 2 bathrooms on the main floor to accommodate us and our families that come to visit. But the ranches, we have so many ranches in our neighborhood. And I just want to like, if I had the money, I would just go in and save them. And we could just flip them and just accommodate people, a wider population, from families to people that are aging in place. However, we also don't want to poo-poo on the 2-story homes, because 2-story homes can be universal design and they're made for families. So a lot of times you have to build up, you can't build out. And that's exactly what happened to us. We really wanted a ranch home, but in order to accommodate what we wanted in our home, we needed to build up. So we just want people to realize that you can also have a universal design home with a 2-story level home. But also,
That's a great point. When building new construction,
yes,
talk to your builder. You don't have to have the main floor primary, but have a flex space that
yes,
butts up to a bathroom so that you can modify it down the road.
Yep.
And put all of your closets stacked on each other so that you can add a residential elevator. You have a natural elevator shaft in the form of closets that if you have a terrible disaster happen or health happen, as we all will, because we're not invincible, your house will just be so much easier and less expensive to modify. So there are things
Yep.
like if you have an office on the main floor, put a full bath instead of a powder room, and that can become a bedroom down the road. But it doesn't have to be like Tiffany's saying, perfectly universally designed for somebody to make it work long term. We have a criteria called UDR, Universal Design Ready.
Okay.
And we educate realtors on how to help their clients find these UDR homes, because it's going to decrease the cost of modification tremendously.
Sure.
And the requirements are 2 or fewer steps to enter the home. So that can be any egress. It doesn't have to be every egress, but like at one point, there are 2 or fewer steps, because you can then modify and create a 0-step entry down the road. The second one is 36-inch hallways and doorways. It's hard. I live in a 50s ranch. It's going to be hard to get a 36-inch hallway. So I would say 32 to 34 is doable for most, but the gold standard is 36 inches. And then a bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom on a level of entry. And we don't call it the main level, because we've seen some really great 2 stories with walkout basements that have kitchen, bathroom, and can be fully universally designed. So we try to educate people on, because the stat you mentioned, it is lacking. People want to stay in the community. If you go cast a wider net using these criteria, it's going to be a lot easier, because you're not going to find the perfect diamond in the rough.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about my own house and I'm like, oh my gosh, what are the chances that I'll be able to stay in my home? But I do have a driveway and I'm thinking, okay, well, that would be one way to bypass the 6 or 7 stairs that lead into my front door.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does seem overwhelming when you think about your current situation and how you might evolve. And I would imagine the cost, it's
Yes.
fairly expensive to make some of these changes.
Retrofitting is definitely much more expensive. That's why we educate on being proactive. So whether you're just moving into a home or looking for a home, that's why we bring up the UDR points, because we want to help people find those homes so that it is less expensive to make those changes. Somewhere, I think maybe in a New Zealand study, it was saying like it's 20 times more to retrofit a home than to include those accessible or universal design features in the home at new construction.
I also wanted to talk about the ADA compliant label. It's not necessary. That is for commercial properties, correct?
Yeah. So the ADA law went into effect in between 1990 and 1991. That is when I was born, and it has not been changed since. And so it is, if you ask anybody that uses a mobility device, walker, cane, wheelchair, crutches, they will tell you how hard it is to get around in places that are ADA certified or ADA compliant. So it is the bare minimum, and it was created for commercial spaces. So there's no accessible or universal design code book, if you will, for building residentially, because it is so client specific.
Right.
So what works for somebody may not work for somebody else because of just differences in abilities. There is the Universal Design Project, who has done some really great work in this area. Tiffany has worked with them as well, and they have built as close to what could be for a Universal Design code book, but it is really hard to have standardization in Universal Design because of just the differences all across the United States.
And we really can't make universal design a code. We really don't want to. Like the original crew that put together universal design principles from the North Carolina State University, Ron Mace was one of the head leaders of that. But he would always say, don't make a code book out of it because everything is always changing. And that's why the ADA is so outdated because it's not accommodating the updated mobility equipment that we have these days. And it's not updating to the cultural changes that we have in our society or society in general. So universal design it goes with the changes. So it changed with us. And that's one of the key things I think to highlight between universal design and ADA compliancy.
Okay, interesting.
Could you think about like how much we have changed with wheelchairs, for example? Now the wheelchairs can stand, so we don't necessarily have to have 30-inch height countertops all the time. So, and then we also need to think about the clearance underneath the countertop. So some of those may require more clearance because of the newer technology that we have in our wheelchairs. And the wheelchairs have different turn radius, all of them do. So the ADA does not accommodate and factor in all of those variables.
For the two of you, if you were adding on to your home right now or considering a remodel, what would your ideal floor plan look like?
I live in it. It's so exciting. So I live in a 50s ranch that has a 20 by 20 sunroom off the back. And the 20 by 20 sunroom has sliding doors that are double. And so two sides of that have 0-step entry. If we were doing a remodel, we would probably mimic that and put that on the far. So that's on the far right side of the house. We would do the same 20 by 20 on the left side of the house, making it a U. And then the one on the left would just be a primary suite with ensuite bath, huge shower, huge storage closet, because again, not sexy to think about aging, but a lot of equipment comes as you age. So having a place to store all of that. So when you're hosting, it doesn't feel shameful or in the way or burdensome. But that's what I would just add another addition to what we already have.
Cool.
Yeah.
Brittany, how about you?
Well, I live in a new construction, so we were able to pick everything out. We worked with an architect from the very beginning, and then we picked out all the designs. We did everything ourselves from scratch. So it was a really cool adventure. At the time, I didn't know we were doing a lot of universal design things, but my husband and I are both aware of disabilities. We have family members with disabilities. I have grandparents who are like in their 90s. So we wanted to welcome everyone into our home. And we also had friends that were in wheelchairs. So we wanted people to be able to get into our house and be able to stay with us if they ever wanted to stay with us. So we made a semi-accessible bathroom for our guests and in a large bedroom for them with double door entry. And then we also have wide hallways and doorways. None of our doors, except for the basement, are less than 36 inches. So I really wanted to make sure that everyone can get around. And we have a ramp to get into our homes. So this is another difference between ADA compliant. So if you're working with a contractor or someone that is working on building a house for you, if they use the word ADA compliant, they have the intention and they mean well with that. But ADA compliant does not apply to residential homes. It only applies to commercial spaces and public places.
I was noticing on your website that you offer some really great tips for creating accessible spaces in the home during the holiday season in particular. And I'm hosting this year, and I'm thinking about older relatives who are having to traverse lots of stairs. What kind of advice can you give homeowners for making homes a little bit more accessible, especially, as we approach the holiday season?
Yeah. So as Tiffany mentioned earlier in the interview, removable ramps. So they're as easy as Amazon. There's rubber threshold ramps that go, I think, up to like 6 inches, which is a pretty big step. You could get a couple of those and put them together depending on what your step configuration is, or you could get a full-on portable ramp and store it in the basement or the garage over the holidays. But one of the big things, especially as we get closer to Thanksgiving and Christmas is snow and ice. So making sure that where people are coming in and out is covered. If it is not covered, having salt readily available. Don't wait till the day of. But such a simple thing, lighting outside. And then for inside, making sure that your table is set with enough space to get around. If somebody uses, not even if they use a mobility device, really, if they have bad balance, you don't want them to trip up on a leg of a chair, or making sure that there's clear walkways. I know we all like to throw trees and lovely decor around the holiday season, but making sure that your aisleways are a minimum of 32, preferably closer to 34, 36 inches wide so that nobody falls, trips. And then leaving a space, if anybody is a wheelchair user, leaving a space at the table without a chair. So there's a natural place for that person to sit without the shame and, oh, let me move that, or,
Right.
and just making it a natural, like have a place sitting there with no chair. And then it's just a natural fit.
I love that.
And I'll add to that, a variety of seating is really important, especially if someone is tall or if someone has maybe some bad knees or they have back trouble. We don't want them bending or stooping a lot. So a variety of seating would include like armrest on some of the chairs, firm cushioned or a firm seat, different height levels, seating. I know there is a specific chair we always get out for my grandfather before he passed away in our home. And so it was so much easier and firmer for him to stand because he's such a tall dude. So it's really helpful to be accommodating for your guests that require different types of seating, because or else we're going to be helping grandma get out of their chairs or off the couches. But you can raise the couches too. So if that really helps, it's just temporary. So they make like little I guess they're like little steps that
Like
you
razors.
like they have bed raisers, so you can put those under couches as well.
Oh,
So those are some temporary solutions for like when people come visit. You can also insert a firm board
bottom.
underneath the cushion, and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of different things, like simple solutions that you can get for your guests. And just like she said, store it away for when people are not there. We actually have a shower chair for our guest bathroom, and we just leave it there. So when people need it, we get it out.
Great idea. Okay. So again, it's being intentional, which always feels really, really thoughtful, especially as the holidays approach. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. It
Well,
was
thank
fun.
you. It was an honor to be here.
And now on to these views. By now, you probably know how much I love a good house tour. So I was excited to find out that on October 12th, the Kirkwood Lifestyle Home Tour is taking place from noon to 5 p.m. There are 8 houses on the tour, which is self-guided. And what's really neat about it is that visitors get the chance to meet and chat with the builders and remodelers as well. My previous podcast episode featuring my conversation with Mike Sestrick about trees has inspired me to learn more about them. So I was really, really thrilled to find out that there are tree tours available for groups through the Missouri Botanical Garden. To reserve your spot or to ask any questions, you can email tourism@mobot.org. The Luston House Tour on October 27th invites you to tour a meticulously restored home that was once a post-World War II prefab and is now a retro haven. There are 3 tour times at 3, 4, and 5 p.m. And for those who are interested in really getting to know the house, it can also be booked as a short-term rental. Ticket prices are $10 and $15. Thanks for listening to the House of Lou podcast. Be sure to follow us and share the episodes with your friends. Be in touch. Subscribe to our design and home newsletter at stlmag.com/newsletters and follow along on Instagram at St. Louis Mag. You can follow me at VT Lookbook. If you loved what you heard, show us some love by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you choose to listen. We'll see you next time. And just remember, there's so much to see in St. Louis if you know where to look.